The house with a secret. John Carter stood outside his new house, staring at the old wooden door. The place wasn't perfect. The walls had cracks, the paint was peeling, and the garden was overgrown. But it was cheap, and that was all that mattered. He had worked hard to save money, and now he finally had his own home. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. The air smelled dusty, like the house had been empty for years. Sunlight streamed through the dirty windows, making everything look old and forgotten. But John didn't mind. He liked the idea of fixing the place up, making it his own. As he walked through the house, he noticed something strange. The power flickered for a second, even though the electricity was supposed to be working fine. The air felt heavy, almost like someone was watching him. He shook his head. It's just an old house, nothing more. Then he saw the basement door. It was different from the rest of the house, made of thick metal, with 3 heavy locks securing it shut. Why would anyone lock a basement like this? John muttered to himself. He tried to pull the door open, but it didn't budge. He knocked on it. It sounded hollow. Something was on the other side. John searched the house and found a set of old keys in the kitchen drawer. He tried each one, his heart pounding. Finally, one of them clicked. He removed the first lock, then the second, and finally the third. He hesitated. His fingers trembled slightly as he gripped the handle. Taking a deep breath, he pulled the door open. A strong gust of cold air rushed past him, carrying a faint metallic scent. The basement was pitch black. He reached for the light switch, but nothing happened. Great. No power down here. John grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing a narrow staircase leading down. The steps creaked under his weight as he carefully made his way down. At the bottom, he found a metal door. Unlike the wooden basement walls, this door looked like something from a high-tech laboratory. It had strange symbols carved into it, symbols that didn't look human. John's pulse quickened. He reached out and touched the door. It felt warm, almost like it was alive. Suddenly, the door slid open on its own. John jumped back, his heart hammering. Inside, he saw her. A woman stood in the center of the room, but she wasn't human. She was tall, with silver-blue skin that shimmered under the flashlight. Her eyes glowed softly, like tiny stars. Thin, glowing veins ran along her arms, pulsing with an eerie blue light. She stared at John, tilting her head slightly, as if studying him. Then she smiled. "You're finally home, my husband." John's blood turned ice cold. "What? What did you just say?" His voice was barely above a whisper. The alien woman took a step closer, her glowing eyes locked onto his. "I have waited for you for a long time, John Carter." John took a step back, gripping the phone in his hand like a weapon. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" She placed a hand on her chest. "I am Zyra, and you are my husband." John felt like the world had flipped upside down. His mouth went dry. His mind screamed run, but his legs refused to move. This had to be a prank, right? Maybe some kind of reality show. But no cameras were in sight. And she didn't look human. Zyra's face softened. "You don't remember me, do you?" "Remember you?" John repeated, his voice shaking. "I don't even know who or what you are." She sighed, as if she expected this reaction. "It's okay. I will explain everything. But first, you need to understand, this house is not just a house." John's breath came fast and shallow. "What do you mean?" Zyra turned slightly and pointed to the wall behind her. John followed her gaze and gasped. The basement didn't just have one room. There was another metal door, larger, heavier, humming with power. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface, pulsing in rhythm with Zyra's veins. "That," Zyra said, "is the reason I am here, and the reason you were brought back." John blinked. "Brought back? What are you talking about?" Zyra stepped closer, looking deep into his eyes. "John, this is not your first life. You and I were together long ago. And now, fate has brought you back to me. John couldn't breathe. He wanted to run, to scream, to pretend this wasn't happening. But deep inside, a strange feeling stirred in his chest. Something about her words felt true. And that terrified him. Who, or what, is she? John's legs felt like they were made of stone. His breath came in short, sharp gasps as he stared at the glowing-eyed woman standing before him. You're my what? He finally managed to blurt out. Zara took a step forward, her silver-blue skin shimmering under the dim basement light. My husband, she repeated calmly, as if she had just told him his name. John's mind raced. This had to be a joke. A setup. A crazy prank. Maybe some hidden camera show. But there were no cameras. And Zara was definitely not human. His grip tightened on his phone, the flashlight beam trembling slightly in his hands. Look, I don't know who you are or what kind of game this is, but I am not your husband. I just bought this house last week. I don't even know you. Zara tilted her head, her glowing veins pulsing slightly. Your memories have not returned yet, she said, almost to herself. That is unfortunate. John swallowed hard. This woman, this thing, was talking like she actually knew him. And worse, she spoke like she expected him to know her too. He took a step back. You're insane. This is insane. Zara lifted her hand, palm up. John's body froze. Not because he wanted to, but because he couldn't move. His arms locked in place, his legs refused to respond. A strange, weightless sensation crept up his spine as if his body was no longer entirely his own. Zara looked at him with something like sadness. I will not harm you, John. I could never harm you. John's pulse pounded in his ears. Then let me go. She hesitated, then lowered her hand. Instantly, John stumbled backward, gasping for breath, his muscles finally obeying again. What the hell was that? He shouted. His mind screamed at him to run, but his feet stayed glued to the cold basement floor. Zara sighed, lowering her gaze for a moment. There is too much to explain, and little time to do it. But I will try. She turned slightly and gestured toward the metallic door behind her, the one humming with power. The strange symbols on its surface pulsed, as if alive. You believe you just bought this house, she said slowly. But the truth is, this house was meant to find you. John's mouth felt dry. Meant to find me. What does that even mean? Zara turned back to him, her glowing blue eyes piercing through him like twin stars. Because this is not your first life. Silence stretched between them. The air felt heavier, like the room itself was holding its breath. John let out a hollow laugh. Okay, sure. I've been reincarnated. Next, you're gonna tell me I used to be some kind of space warrior or something. Zara didn't smile. John's breath caught. He shook his head quickly. No way. That's crazy. I'm just some guy. I work in it. I eat pizza and watch Netflix. I get stuck in traffic like everyone else. I am not some kind of cosmic space hero. Zara took another step forward. This time, John didn't move away. You were not just a warrior, she said softly. You were my partner. You and I. We fought together. We lived together. And she hesitated, searching his face. We loved each other. John's heart slammed against his ribs. He could see the pain in her expression, the way her fingers trembled slightly at her sides, as if she was fighting to keep control. And the strangest part, a tiny part of him, the smallest, most hidden part of him, felt something. Not recognition, not memory, but something deep inside him stirred. He clenched his jaw. That's impossible. Zara's gaze didn't waver. I wish it were. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the alien symbols glowing on the massive door behind her. Then, John exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. Okay, fine. Let's say I believe you, just for a second. If I really knew you before, why don't I remember anything? Huh. Explain that. Zira looked down, a shadow passing over her face. Because you died, John. John felt his stomach drop. Zira continued. You were killed. And when you were reborn into this new life, your memories, our memories, were lost. John's legs suddenly felt weak. He stumbled back, gripping the edge of a rusted shelf for support. Died? Reborn? What the hell was she talking about? His voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. If I died, then why are you still here? Zira's glowing eyes softened. Because I never left. I waited. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. John didn't know what to say. This woman, this alien, had been waiting for him. For who knows how long. And suddenly, something clicked in his mind. The basement door, he murmured. It was locked from the inside. Zira nodded. John swallowed. You were trapped down here. Zira nodded again. I could not leave until you returned. The energy of this place, the technology hidden beneath us, was tied to your presence. John glanced at the metallic door behind her. And what's behind that door? Zira hesitated. Then she turned back to the door and lifted her hand. The symbols pulsed brighter. John squinted as the light grew stronger. Then, with a loud hiss, the metal door slid open. Beyond it, a massive underground structure stretched into the darkness. John's breath caught. It wasn't just a basement. It was a ship. And something deep inside him recognized it. The basement goes deeper. John's heart pounded as he stared into the massive underground chamber beyond the glowing metal door. It stretched far beneath the house, its walls smooth and metallic, pulsating with a faint blue light. The air was thick, not with dust, but with energy. He could feel it buzzing against his skin, like static electricity crawling over his arms. This wasn't just a basement. This was something else entirely. Zira stepped forward, her silver-blue skin shimmering under the strange glow. She turned to look at him, waiting for him to react. John swallowed hard, his voice unsteady. What the hell is this? Zira's gaze softened. This is what I was protecting, what I was waiting for. John shook his head. No, this isn't real. This can't be real. He pressed his hand against the cool metal wall. The moment he did, the symbols pulsed brighter, like they recognized him. A sharp pain stabbed through his mind. A flash of something familiar. A memory. A dream. A battle. Explosions. The sky on fire. Zira beside him, shouting something. Pain. Loss. A promise made in blood. John jerked his hand away from the wall, gasping. The images faded just as quickly as they had appeared. Zira was watching him closely. You felt it, didn't you? She said quietly. John shook his head, taking a step back. No, that was just my imagination. That wasn't real. Zira sighed, but she didn't press further. Instead, she turned and walked deeper into the chamber. Come, she said. I need to show you something. John hesitated. Every logical part of his brain was screaming at him to leave, to run far away, to pretend none of this was happening. But he followed her anyway. The core of the secret, the underground passage, led to a massive open space. At the center of the room stood a large spherical structure, its surface covered in more glowing symbols. It hovered slightly above the ground, emitting a soft, rhythmic hum. John felt an odd pull toward it, like his body was responding to something deep inside the sphere. What is this? He asked. Zira walked around the structure, her fingers trailing across the glowing lines. This is the heart of the ship, the core. John blinked. Wait, ship. Zira nodded. This isn't just an underground chamber, John. It's the remains of our ship, the one we traveled in together before you died. John felt lightheaded. No, that's insane. Zara turned to face him. Then tell me, why does it react to you? Why did you see those memories just now? John had no answer. He rubbed his temples, trying to clear his thoughts. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. He took a deep breath and forced himself to focus. If this really is a ship, why is it buried under my house? Zira exhaled. It wasn't always buried. We crashed here many, many years ago. The impact was so powerful that over time, the land reshaped itself around the wreckage. Humans built over it, and eventually, this house was placed here. John felt a shiver run down his spine. But why sell it to me? Zira hesitated before answering. Because someone knows who you are. John's stomach twisted. What do you mean? Zira's glowing eyes darkened slightly. You didn't find this house by accident. Someone wanted you to come back here, and if they knew this ship was here. A sudden realization hit John like a punch to the chest. You mean, someone's been watching me? Before Zira could answer, bing, bang, bang. A loud knocking echoed from upstairs. John's blood ran cold. The visitors at the door. The knocking came again, louder this time. John glanced at Zira, his breath hitching. Don't open it, she whispered. John's heart pounded as he slowly crept back up the basement stairs. He reached the kitchen, where the back door had a small dusty window. Peering through it, he froze. 3 men in black suits stood outside the front door. They looked normal, too normal. Their suits were crisp, their faces blank, their eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. John's gut twisted. He had seen people like this before. They looked like government agents, but something about them felt wrong. The lead man knocked again. Mr. Carter, he called out, his voice smooth and professional. We need to speak with you. We have some questions about your property. John's throat went dry. How did they know his name? His fingers twitched over the doorknob. But before he could move, Zira's hand grabbed his wrist. Don't, she whispered. They are not who they seem. John turned to her. What do you mean? She leaned in close, her voice urgent. They are not human. John stared at her. Not human. His head spun. This was too much. He was just a regular guy. He bought a cheap house. Now aliens were in his basement, and men who weren't human were knocking on his door. This was insane. The lead agent knocked again, harder this time. Mr. Carter, we know you're in there. We strongly suggest you open the door. John turned back toward Zira, panic rising. What do we do? Zira's glowing veins pulsed faster. We run. John's stomach twisted. Run? Where? Zira turned toward the basement. There is another way out. But if they realize we are escaping, they will not let us go easily. John clenched his fists. He didn't know what was happening, but every instinct screamed that Zira was right. He took a deep breath. Okay, let's go. Zira nodded, grabbing his hand. The moment their fingers touched, John felt a surge of energy rush through him. And then, bang! The door exploded inward, sending shards of wood flying. The men in suits stepped inside. But as the dust cleared, John finally saw their faces. And they were not human. Their skin was too smooth, their eyes glowing a faint red. As they stepped forward, their hands twisted into long, sharp claws. John's breath caught in his throat. Zira gripped his wrist tightly. Run. Without thinking, John turned and bolted toward the basement. Behind him, the creatures let out an inhuman screech. And then they chased after him. The chase begins. John's feet slammed against the basement stairs as he bolted downward, heart pounding like a war drum. Behind him, the sound of the splintered door crashing to the floor filled the house, followed by the heavy thudding footsteps of the inhuman agents. The creatures weren't even trying to hide anymore. Their disguised human faces melted away, revealing something wrong underneath. Their skin shimmered with a dark metallic sheen, their mouths stretching wider than they should, rows of needle-like teeth glinting in the dim light. And their eyes, glowing, unnatural, red as burning embers. Faster! Zara yanked John's arm, pulling him deeper into the underground chamber. John barely had time to think as he stumbled forward, his breath coming in sharp gasps. What were those things? They looked like some kind of monsters straight out of a nightmare. He wanted to turn back, to get another look, but bang! A shot screamed past his ear, embedding itself into the metal wall beside him. "They have guns," John yelped. Zara didn't slow down. "They won't need them if they catch us." Another deafening blast echoed behind them, the bullet ricocheting off the ship's ancient walls, sending sparks raining down. John ducked instinctively, nearly tripping over his own feet as they ran. The underground ship was massive, its corridors stretching endlessly, each metallic hallway pulsing with strange energy. John had no idea where they were going. He only knew one thing. If they stopped running, they were dead. The hidden exit. Ahead, a massive circular doorway stood slightly open, its glowing blue edges humming softly. Zara slammed her hand against a panel on the wall. The door whirred to life, beginning to slide open. But not fast enough. Behind them, the creatures were gaining. Their movements were wrong, almost glitching, like their bodies didn't fully obey the laws of physics. John risked a glance back. One of them lunged forward, its long, clawed hand reaching for him. Zap! A blue force field suddenly erupted between them, sending the creature flying back with a screech. John spun to Zara. What the hell was that? Zara's eyes flickered with power. "The ship still recognizes me," she said breathlessly. "And it recognizes you too." John barely had time to process that when Zara grabbed his wrist again and yanked him through the opening just as the door slammed shut behind them. The last thing John saw was the red-eyed creatures snarling, slamming their metallic fists against the door. They weren't giving up. Not by a long shot. The truth about the agents. Zara didn't stop moving. She led John deeper into the tunnels, through a narrow passageway filled with glowing blue conduits running along the walls. The air felt different here, thicker, charged with something John didn't understand. Finally, Zara stopped, pressing her palm to another metallic panel. A hidden door slid open, revealing a small chamber filled with alien-looking technology, control panels, screens flashing strange symbols, and in the center, a floating metallic orb humming softly with energy. John bent over, catching his breath. "Okay, pause. Explain. What the hell were those things?" Zara exhaled sharply. "They are called the Varak. They are not human. They are not even from this galaxy." John ran a shaky hand through his hair. "And you're telling me they just walk around in suits, pretending to be FBI agents?" "Yes." Zara nodded. "They have been on Earth for centuries, slowly infiltrating governments, industries, and intelligence agencies. Their goal is to control your planet from within. They do not need a war. They just need patience." John stared at her. His whole world was tilting sideways. "You're saying these things have already taken over?" Zara hesitated. "Not entirely, but they are close." John's stomach twisted. This was insane. Less than an hour ago, he was a normal guy buying a cheap house. Now he was standing in an underground spaceship while alien monsters in FBI suits were trying to kill them. He rubbed his temples. "Why the hell do they want me so bad?" Zara's gaze darkened. "Because you are the last piece of their plan. They knew you would come here. They made sure this house was sold to you." John's blood turned cold. "Why?" Zara gestured to the humming metallic orb in the center of the chamber. "Because you are the key to activating this ship. And if they get to you first, Earth is doomed." John took a step back. He felt like he couldn't breathe. "You're joking." His voice was barely a whisper. Zara didn't blink. "I wish I was. The war isn't over. John let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. No, no, see, this is ridiculous. I'm just some random guy. I work in it. I can barely keep a houseplant alive. How am I supposed to stop an alien invasion? Zira stepped closer, lowering her voice. Because, John, you already did it once. His heart stopped. You were not just my husband. You were a warrior, a leader. You fought against the Varak before, and you nearly destroyed them. John's mouth went dry. No, he muttered. You've got the wrong guy. That wasn't me. I don't remember any of this. Zara placed a hand over his chest, just above his heart. You don't need to remember, she said softly, because deep inside, you already know. John's breathing grew unsteady. Something inside him stirred, a distant, buried feeling, like a locked door in his mind was beginning to creak open. Flashes of battle, stars burning, Zyra's voice screaming his name. He gasped, stumbling back. No, no, this isn't real. Zyra looked at him with sadness and certainty. The war never ended, John. They wiped your memory, but they never stopped hunting you. You are the only one who can stop them. John shook his head violently. I don't know how. I don't know anything. A deep, thunderous explosion suddenly shook the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. The walls trembled. Zyra's face turned grim. They found us. John's pulse spiked. The metallic orb in the room glowed brighter, vibrating faster. The ship was waking up, and so was something inside John. Zyra turned toward the control panels. We have to move. Now. John clenched his fists. He wasn't ready. But ready or not, the fight had already begun. Who was John before? The walls shook violently, dust and debris raining down from the ceiling. A deep, resonating hum filled the underground chamber, growing louder as the orb at the center of the ship pulsed with blinding blue light. John stumbled backward, shielding his eyes. What's happening? Zyra's glowing veins pulsed in rhythm with the ship's core as she turned toward him. The ship is waking up, and so are you. Before John could process that, the metallic walls groaned as the entrance to the chamber blew open with a deafening boom. Smoke and rubble filled the air as the Varak stepped through. Their humanoid disguises were completely gone now. Their dark metallic skin gleamed under the pulsating blue light of the ship's core. Their elongated clawed fingers twitched, and their glowing red eyes locked onto John. The lead Varak stepped forward, his voice like metal grinding against metal. John Carter, the last of the forgotten warriors. You belong to us now. John's breath hitched. Every part of his body screamed run, but his feet wouldn't move. Zyra didn't hesitate. She lifted her palm, and a burst of blue energy shot forward, slamming into the nearest Varak. The creature screeched as it was thrown back, smashing into the wall. John's heart pounded. Zyra was actually fighting these things. But then, one of them lunged. John barely had time to react. He felt cold, sharp claws wrap around his throat, lifting him off the ground. His vision blurred. His legs kicked uselessly in the air. Your past is gone, the Varak rasped, tightening its grip. Your future belongs to us. John's vision darkened. His lungs burned. Then, something inside him snapped. A sudden surge of energy erupted from deep within his chest, hot, electric, and completely alien. Boom! A massive shockwave exploded outward, blasting the Varak away from him. John collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. His hands were glowing. The same blue light that pulsed in the ship's core was now coursing through his veins. The Varak hissed, stepping back. Zyra's eyes widened. It's starting. John barely heard her. His mind was spinning. His hands still crackled with energy. He had just unleashed something powerful. Something that felt familiar. He looked at Zyra, chest heaving. What the hell just happened? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she smiled. You're remembering. John shook his head. No, I don't remember anything. That just happened. Zira took a slow step forward, her eyes filled with certainty. Because your body never forgot. It was always inside you, buried beneath layers of forgotten time. And now, piece by piece, it's coming back. John clenched his fists. He didn't know whether to be terrified or relieved. The Varak, however, weren't waiting for him to figure it out. The lead Varak let out a low, menacing growl. Kill them both. Now. 5 of them charged at once. Zira threw up a barrier of energy, but the creatures moved too fast. 2 of them dodged around her shield, lunging straight for John. John's instincts kicked in. His body moved before his mind could catch up. He ducked, his hand snapping forward, and an arc of blue energy shot from his palm, slamming into one of the Varak's chest. The creature howled in agony, its body disintegrating into a cloud of black smoke. John froze. Did he just kill that thing? Before he could process it, another Varak clawed at his face. John barely dodged, rolling to the side. Zira blasted another attacker away, her voice urgent. You have to focus. John gritted his teeth. He had no idea how to focus. Another Varak lunged. John raised his hand instinctively. And suddenly, his fingers closed around a weapon. A blade of pure blue energy materialized in his grasp. John's breath hitched. His mind screamed, this is impossible. But his body knew exactly what to do. The Varak slashed at him. John sidestepped, twisted, and drove the blade into its chest. The creature let out a horrific screech, its body collapsing into ash. John's pulse thundered. The Varak stopped attacking. They took a step back, watching him now, studying him. The lead Varak's expression twisted. So, the warrior still lives after all. John felt something click inside his mind. Not a full memory, not yet, but a feeling, a certainty. He had fought these creatures before, and he had won. But if that was true, why had he lost his memories? John squared his shoulders, gripping the energy blade. I don't know what I was before, but I know one thing. He pointed the blade at the Varak. You're not taking me. And you're not taking this planet either. The lead Varak's eyes narrowed. We shall see. And then, they vanished. Not just ran. They literally faded into the shadows, disappearing like smoke. John spun in all directions. Where did they go? Zira's expression was grim. They're retreating, but not for long. John let out a shaky breath, his hands still tingling with energy. He turned to Zira. I need answers. Now. Zira nodded. Then we don't have much time. We have to leave this place. John hesitated. Go where? Zira met his gaze, her glowing eyes filled with old memories. To where this all began. The final battle beneath the house. The underground chamber hummed with a strange electric silence. The Varak were gone. For now. But John could still feel their presence, like a storm gathering just beyond the horizon. His heartbeat pounded in his ears, and his hands still tingled with the raw energy that had erupted from his body moments ago. He had no idea how he had done that. No idea who he truly was. But one thing was clear. He wasn't just some random guy anymore. Zira's silver blue skin shimmered under the glow of the ship's core. She placed a hand on the floating metallic orb, her fingers trailing across its surface. The lights within the chamber flickered, responding to her touch. They won't stay away for long, she said, her voice tight with urgency. They never do. John exhaled sharply. Great, just what I needed, stalker alien assassins in suits. Zira turned to him, her glowing blue eyes serious. We need to activate the ship and leave before they return. John crossed his arms. Yeah, about that. How exactly am I supposed to activate a spaceship when I barely understand what's happening? Zira gave him a knowing look. You already have. The moment you touched the wall, the ship responded to you. It's waking up. Because of you. John looked at his hands again. The energy blade he had summoned earlier was gone, but he could still feel it, a lingering pulse beneath his skin. It was like a muscle he hadn't used in years, slowly stretching, waking up. A muscle his body remembered, but his mind didn't. Zira continued, "You are not just connected to this ship, John. You were its captain, its commander. That's why the Varak fear you." John's throat went dry. "They fear me." Zira nodded. "They do not fear humans, John. They fear you, because last time, you nearly wiped them out." John felt like the ground had dropped out beneath him. This was getting worse by the second. I don't remember any of that," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I'm just a guy from Earth, okay? A guy who buys his coffee at the same cafe every morning and complains about traffic. I'm not some space warrior." Zira stepped closer, her expression soft but unwavering. "You are, and whether you remember or not, they do. That is why they tried to erase you. That is why they manipulated events to make sure you ended up here, so they could find you the moment you reconnected to the ship." John's jaw tightened. "Then why didn't they just kill me before?" Zira hesitated. "Then," she said quietly, "because they need you alive." John stiffened. "For what?" Zira looked toward the ship's core, which pulsed softly, waiting for a command. "Because only you can unlock the ship's full power. And if they control you, they control everything." The Varak return. A low vibration rumbled through the walls. Zira's head snapped up. John didn't need her to tell them what it meant. "They're coming back," he muttered. Zira moved quickly, pressing her hands against a nearby control panel. Strange alien symbols flickered to life beneath her fingertips. The ship's hum grew louder, as if it were drawing power. "We need to leave," she said urgently. John shook his head. "If we leave, what happens to Earth?" Zira hesitated. "If we leave, we can return stronger. Right now, you are not ready to face them." John clenched his fists. He knew she was right. He was still figuring out who he was, let alone how to fight an entire alien species. But something inside him refused to run. "If we leave, they'll destroy everything," he said. "We have to fight." Zira studied him for a moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. "You really are the same man I knew," she said softly. Before John could respond, a loud explosion rocked the ship, sending dust and debris cascading from the ceiling. The ground shook violently. John turned toward the chamber entrance and saw the Varak stepping through the smoke. Their bodies shifted and morphed, no longer needing their human disguises. Their metallic skin glinted under the glow of the ship's energy. Their clawed hands twitched with unnatural sharpness. The leader stepped forward, red eyes burning. "Enough running. You belong to us, John Carter." John's muscles tensed. Something deep inside him, something ancient, snapped. A voice, not his own, whispered in the back of his mind. "No more." The warrior awakens. Before he could second-guess himself, John stepped forward. The Varak charged. John moved faster. A wave of blue energy exploded from his palm, slamming into the first Varak before it could even reach him. The creature let out an unholy screech as it was obliterated into dust. The others didn't stop. John barely had time to think before his hands reacted on their own. A sword of pure energy flashed to life in his grip. The nearest Varak swung its claws toward his throat. John dodged at the last second, spinning, bringing his energy blade up in a fluid arc. Slash! The Varak collapsed, its body disintegrating into ash. John's breathing was steady, controlled, focused. He wasn't just fighting. He was remembering. The way his body moved, the way he anticipated attacks, the way his energy responded, it was all coming back. The leader of the Varak growled. "So, the warrior has awakened." John pointed his blade at him. "Yeah. And I'm not running anymore." The Varak let out an ear-piercing screech, and suddenly, more of them poured into the chamber. Too many. Zira shouted, "John, we have to leave. Now." John gritted his teeth. He wanted to fight. But she was right. They weren't ready. With a quick motion, he grabbed Zira's hand, and she pressed a final sequence of symbols on the control panel. The ship roared to life. The entire chamber shook, and the floor beneath them shifted. The Varak leader lunged. Boom! A blinding white light engulfed everything. And then, they were gone. Aftermath. A new beginning. John gasped as air filled his lungs. His body tingled, and when his vision cleared, they were no longer underground. They were in space. John stumbled to his feet. Through the massive window in front of him, he saw Earth shrinking in the distance. He turned to Zira, his chest heaving. "What? Where?" She smiled. "We're free." John took a deep breath. He had left Earth behind. And now, for the first time, he was one step closer to the truth. But deep inside, he knew. The fight was far from over. The truth beyond Earth. The silence of space was deafening. John stood frozen, staring out of the massive viewing window. Earth was shrinking behind them, a small blue dot against the black void. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, shimmering against the backdrop of infinity. For the first time in his life, he wasn't looking at the sky. He was in it. His mind struggled to process everything. Minutes ago, he was a normal guy. A guy who bought a cheap house. A guy who didn't believe in aliens or spaceships or ancient intergalactic wars. Now, he was standing aboard an alien ship, flying away from Earth with a woman who claimed to be his wife. And he had just killed monsters with powers he didn't even know he had. Zira's voice pulled him from his thoughts. "John," she said gently, stepping beside him. "Are you okay?" He let out a hollow laugh. "Oh yeah. I just found out I was some kind of space warrior in a past life, escaped from shape-shifting alien assassins, and now I'm flying through space with my..." He hesitated. "Ex-wife. Wife? Alien wife. I don't even know." Zira smirked. "Technically, still your wife. But we can work on the details later." John sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "You know what? Forget that. Where the hell are we going?" Zira turned to the control panel, tapping a series of glowing symbols. The ship responded instantly, the stars outside shifting as their course adjusted. "To where this all began," she said. "A place that holds the truth about your past and the future of this war." John clenched his jaw. "And where is that?" Zira's glowing blue eyes met his. "The last surviving human outpost in the Andromeda system." John's pulse spiked. "Wait, what do you mean, human outpost?" Zira exhaled. "John, Earth isn't the only place humans have lived. Your people have been fighting this war for far longer than you can imagine." John felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him. "Wait, you're saying there are humans out there, in space?" Zira nodded. "And if we don't stop the Varak," she said, "they will be the last ones left. The lost history of humanity." The ship soared through space, and John sat across from Zira in a circular chamber filled with floating holograms. One of them, a massive three-dimensional projection of a galaxy, glowed in the air between them. Zira waved her hand, and the galaxy zoomed in on a distant star system. A planet came into focus, its surface marked with massive cities, glowing blue oceans, and towering spires of alien architecture. This, she said, was Solara Prime, the first human colony outside of Earth. John leaned forward, staring at the floating planet. "What do you mean was?" Zira's expression darkened. "It was destroyed by the Varak, over 200 years ago." A cold chill ran through John's spine. "Wait," he muttered. "You're saying that humans have been fighting these things for centuries?" Zira nodded. "Long before Earth even knew of their existence, humanity was never alone. But Earth was protected, kept hidden from the war." Until now. John exhaled, trying to piece it all together. Okay, he said, rubbing his temples. Let me get this straight. At some point in history, humans left Earth and built entire civilizations in space. But the Varak found them, attacked them, and Earth was kept in the dark about all of this. Zira nodded. John's mind reeled. Everything he thought he knew about history was a lie. Zira continued. The war started because of the ancient artifact you once protected. The same artifact hidden beneath your house. It holds power the Varak desperately want. And you. She hesitated, watching him carefully. You were the only one who could stop them before. John let out a slow breath. So, what happened? Zira's expression darkened. They found a way to kill you. John shuddered. But not before you stopped them, she added. You led the final battle against their forces, and before you died, you made sure Earth would be hidden, shielded from the war for as long as possible. John frowned. Then how did they find Earth now? Zira's lips pressed into a thin line. Because, she said, they've been looking for you, and when you were reborn, the shield around Earth started to weaken. John's pulse spiked. Wait, you're saying I led them there, just by existing? Zira nodded. John felt sick. All of this, the attacks, the infiltration, the destruction of his life, it was all because of him. He clenched his fists. Then we need to stop them. For good. Zira's gaze held his. Then you must remember, John. John took a deep breath. He didn't know if he was ready, but he had no choice. The memories return. Zira activated a small metallic device in her hands. It hovered between them, emitting a soft, rhythmic hum. This, she said, is a memory catalyst. It will help you remember your past. John swallowed. Is it gonna hurt? Zira hesitated. Yes. Before John could protest, she activated the device. A blinding surge of energy shot through him. John gasped. His vision exploded into light. And suddenly, he was there. The final battle of the past. Fire. Smoke. Stars burning. John stood at the center of a massive battlefield, surrounded by the wreckage of ships, the bodies of fallen warriors, and the dark swarm of the Varak. He wasn't alone. Zira was at his side, armor shining, blade glowing. And behind them, thousands of human soldiers. John's heart pounded as the memory consumed him. The Varak general stood at the opposite end of the battlefield. You cannot stop us, Carter, the creature growled. John tightened his grip on his energy sword. Watch me. Then, the battle began. Explosions rocked the field. Ships fell from the sky in burning streaks. John fought like a force of nature, cutting through the Varak with precision, leading the charge, deflecting blasts with an ease that felt second nature. But then, the trap. They had known he was coming. They had planned for it. And as the battle reached its peak, the Varak unleashed a weapon unlike anything before. A pulse of dark energy ripped through him. And then, nothing. Darkness. Back to the present. John's eyes snapped open. He was gasping, sweat dripping from his forehead. The visions faded, but the knowledge remained. He remembered. He remembered who he was. Zira watched him closely. John. He clenched his fists. Fire burned in his veins. I know what we have to do, he said, voice firm. We end this, once and for all. Zira smiled. Then let's finish what we started.